Hi everyone, welcome to Ekascloud. So today start our webinar now in Windows Azure Cloud platforms. So today our task is how to create the Linux VM and how to install particular Linux VM web services. So now let's start. This is our Azure portal login, our own login. First of all, create a resource group. What is meant by resource group means this is a collection of logical things, logical resources. That's called resource group. So now how to create the resource groups? Choose the options resource groups and create the resource groups. Our subscription is free trials only, so now I am using examples. Our resource groups name ecas-rg. ecas-rg. Our region is East US. Now I select review and create. Now I create one resource groups. So see there, this is our resource groups, our subscriptions, and one ID is created, and this is our locations. So many regions are there in Azure Cloud platforms. I am choose this region, East US region. If you choose any regions, you create any resources. But now I try to create virtual machines inside resource groups. Choose the option virtual machines and create virtual machines. Now I create Linux virtual machines. How to create Linux virtual machines? This is options to create Linux virtual machines. So our subscription, choose our existing resource groups ecas-rg. Inside resource groups I create Linux virtual machines. Name Linux, our VM name, and this is our regions. This is the option to select no infrastructure redundancy required, and choose our Ubuntu Linux image, Ubuntu server 18.04 generation 2. So these sides many images are there, Linux and Windows, so many images are there. I choose this particular image only. So this is a Linux image, and next this is a size. So standard 2 CPUs, 8 GB RAM. This is our monthly VM cost, 5,048 rupees. And next, authentication type, SSH public key types are there and password types are there. Password type is normally username and password types are there, and SSH public key is authentication methods, some privileges methods are there. So that method is using SSH public key method. Now I am using normal method, password methods. So username, example, anyone username, and password. Normally you type your own password. So next, allow selected ports. So I select SSH. So if you access remotely in your Linux machine, so choose SSH ports. In previous webinars I select RDB, the remote desktop port. That is a Windows level access ports port, but in Linux VM you only choose SSH secure shell, and HTTP ports also selected. So now next, this is a disk option. Now I does not change these sides. This is I choose default only, and in networking this side also I not change anyone. This default one, and management side also I can't change this size, and advanced side also I can't change anyone. And this is a tag. If you want create tag, identification of resources, so I leave it and go to review, and now this is our VM cost per hour was 6.9 rupees, 9 rupees only. I already choose pay as you go model, so this is a per hour cost. So now I create Linux virtual machines. So few minutes is going, create virtual machines. Now deployment in progress. So see that deployment names created and subscriptions and resource groups. Inside resource group create a Linux VM and starting time, and each and every VM created on correlations IDs. So these are all steps to create a Linux VM. Now deployment is progress. So time is going, so deployment is progress. So in Windows VM accessing method in using MSDSC in RDP remote desktop port methods, you can access Windows VM, but Linux VMs using some tools in PuTTY or some bash tools are using. This is like our git bash tools. So this tool used to access Linux VM. So now I go to resources. This is our Linux VM details. Linux resource groups, status is running, and locations, which region is created, and subscriptions IDs, tags, and operating systems size, and public IP. Each and every VM is created on public IP address. That public IP address via to access particular virtual machines. So now I try to access these Linux machines using git bash software. So copy the public IP address. This is a software to using access Linux VM. Already I download our local machines. If you don't know, you search download git software. This is the option to download git software. This is a link, and now I try to access Linux VM. Open the Open the Git software. Type command ssh paste public IP address, username at public IP address ssh and enter. Are you want to continue connecting? Yes. Now I type password that is confidential. Cannot view type this password. Now I put enter. This is login our Linux VM. This is a method to login our Linux VM. Once again I go to our Git software and this is an option to type our SSH or username at public IP address, and next I type the password. This side I type the password, and now I log in our Linux VM, and this is a normal user not a full privilege to install web services. Root user only install web services in Linux based. So now I log in root user. This is a command to login root user, sudo I super user do super users. This is a full forms, and now I try to login sudo I. This is our root at Linux. This is a privilege to install full privilege to install web services. Now I type the command, try to install web services in Linux VM. So listen carefully. So apt -get update. First update your Linux services. apt-get update -y. Now update in all Linux based services. Now is update is done. Now I try to using another command install web server. That name calls Apache server. apt-get install Apache 2 So this is a enough command for install web services. If you remain your view your command, type the command history. See your all command. I am using only two commands. Install web services. apt-get update -y, apt-get install Apache 2 -y. So now I try to access web pages. How to access web pages? See there. Now I copy the public IP address, go to normal our web page and copy the public IP address, install, enter. This is a Ubuntu server default web pages. This is a way to create Linux virtual machines and how to access the virtual machines using Git software and login Linux virtual machines and using the web server commands and installed web services and copy the public IP address and access our Linux web services. This is a way to create Linux VM install web services. So thanks for watching this video. So once again, thanks for watching this video. Today enough my sections. Thank you.